I truly believe that you will find your wife through this podcast.
Oh dear, maybe.
So if you want to live in a little bit of San Diego, a little bit of England, you're into the fitness stuff, Simon's available.
For your like onesies.
Yeah, you got to be able to wear a onesie well.
Welcome to the Fitpreneurs, the show that will help you flex your business muscles so you can make more money and live the life you really want. No more complaining, whining, or being a wimp. It's time to pump up your fitness business and push yourself beyond your comfort zone. So no girly men or lazy ladies allowed. It's time for me to do some push-ups and turn things over to my friends AJ Roberts and Simon Lovell. Hasta la vista.
It's Thursday in the UK and it's Thursday in San Diego and it's time for the Fitpreneurs with myself, Simon Lovell.
And me, AJ Roberts.
Welcome everybody to this number, AJ, what's the number?
We are at number 18. It's a lot of episodes, man.
PC, it's 18 episodes. It's like when someone turns 18, it's just, this is when it gets super good because people are now coming into their prime. They're listening to 18 episodes. They started to build the fitness knowledge. They're starting to make more money. And now it's like we can supercharge. It's like from teenager into full adult.
in the UK, over here, it's 21.
So this episode will be awful.
They're a little behind over here.
So today we are going to be talking about webinars, and AJ is someone who knows a lot about this, and I also someone who knows quite a lot about this. I think last year, actually this year, webinars have been my biggest source of kind of lead generation and income, and so. I think we're both in a really good position to be able to teach you some of this webinar stuff. But before we go ahead, guys, as always, we're not seeing enough reviews, are we? We want to see more reviews. So
we get a lot of love, like people saying on Facebook to us, like personally, they'll say, "Oh, I love it," but they're, go comment on iTunes, let us know, sign up for the newsletter.
Just while you're listening now, just head to iTunes and go, I'll hit the 5 stars and, I'll just say some nice words because we do read them. We do sit there and we're like, oh, that's nice, that's cool. So we do appreciate that. Head to iTunes, give us a review. Also, just reach out, facebook.com/boylovell, BOYLOVELL. Just say hi. Just say, hi, Si, just listening to you. You sound really freaky. AJ, just, cool, whatever. Just connect. Facebook.com/AJ Roberts. AJ, what's been happening in your world in the amazing length of time that I've not spoken to you since?
Since like 24 hours ago. No, it's like a heat wave here in California again. Just makes everything miserable. Everything's too hot. I don't like it when it's too hot. I love California because it's usually 70 year round.
Well, don't go saying that because I'm looking to move. So
I know maybe you should stay in the rain and the cloudy. I mean, I really shouldn't complain, but it's like you get spoiled with the good weather, and you're used to it, and then all of a sudden it's too hot, and AC's cranked up and doesn't keep the house cool, and it makes it uncomfortable to work. I just want to go sit on the beach and relax all day. So, I guess warm weather problems.
Now, we are not suggesting that you go and sit on the beach all day and not build your fitness business. I should also include that as a disclaimer on this episode. AJ is in fact suggesting that you take your laptop to the beach and close some sales.
Do your workouts on the beach. You use the beach for a lot of things.
Exactly. You just find some kind of like little naughty area and get down and dirty.
How did I know? The minute I said that, that is exactly where you were going to go.
In fact, I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying, "Si, every time you're on a podcast and AJ says something, I know what's coming." And it's like, and someone actually said, like, I don't think sometimes like AJ gets your sense of humor. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, I get it. I just don't want to play into it. I got to keep you on your toes.
Exactly. So, okay, so I have a little rant. So, back in November last year, I did a thing called Marketing for Movember, which was to raise money. I mean, we've got the Ice Bucket Challenge going on in a minute, which I'm sure we'll talk about, which I think is something good to talk about. But I did some Marketing for Movember, which is like the Tash thing, right? When you grow the Tash, and I did some videos with a lot of top marketers, and one of the guys that did one was Garrett White, and he's a very outspoken, awesome guy. You should follow him; he's great. He's got his Wake Up Warrior kind of movement, and we were doing the interview on Hangout, and the interview was about building your business and sex and stuff like that. So Garrett happened to have a banana close by him, and so what he did was he stood up in front of the camera, and then he basically like put the banana outside of his trousers to look like a penis. So I, of course, being a marketer, I was like, I wanted to promote the episode of this Hangout for the charity, and so I used that as a screenshot. Anyway, someone reports it, right? So someone's like, they're like that little button that goes like, I don't like this, whatever that is, and then about a week ago, I was notified by Facebook that I was not allowed to post in any groups for over a week. Now, bearing in mind, I've got my clients in in a Facebook group, so even though it was quite funny, I was slightly frustrated. But the fact that I couldn't reply to anyone in any other groups, reply to my clients, because basically someone had reported a banana that someone at Facebook mistakenly looked like a penis.
You know what's funny about that is like these people are our friends, they follow us, and like it's not out of character for you to do that, to be honest. It's not like a random post. Like, you know, if I'd seen that from you, it would just be another Simon Lovell post, you know. So I find it interesting that like people continue to follow you or, you know, interact with you, but yet, you know, on the backside will report things like that, or they get all uppity about it. It's really interesting to see, like, you know, as things emerge, like, you know, like in a sense, like that was the, you know, it's insinuating a certain thing, but if you look, it's, you know, it's harmless. I see worse things than that on Facebook all the time with these shared videos and fail videos and, you know, the link bait stuff that they're cracking down on that stuff. But it's interesting to see, like, you know, one person complains and then that as a reaction, you know, Facebook punishes you in groups, which has nothing to do with what you posted. Like, you weren't posting in groups, you were posting on your page. You know, it goes to show, though, like, you know, a lot of people have this concern. My friend James Shenko, he lives over in Australia, runs a great business, super fast business. And he always believes in building your own platforms for your membership sites, for your clients, for anything you do, because of this exact very thing, you know. Facebook has been great over the years. I've never had a problem with it, with the groups and things like that. But there is no rules. There's no, you know, understanding between them and you that, you know, what they say goes. And so, you know, Traffic Genesis, we launched that product with Marketing Genesis, the company that I'm involved with. And, you know, we have a couple thousand people going through that program, and a few people have had their ad accounts shut down simply because, you know, they had the settings were wrong, or the websites they were setting to, they didn't have quite everything they needed in terms of the terms and agreements and things like that. And instead of, you know, working with those people, they've just gone ahead and shut people down, shut their accounts down, so people having to appeal that and get those open. But if you think about that, if you run your business in any way, whether it's online, whether it's offline, and you're relying on someone else's platform, or you're relying on one source, so, you know, if you're using Facebook for traffic, just Facebook, or if you're using Facebook for your groups, and you don't have a backup plan, or you don't have a way, you know, if that crashes, basically to continue, you know, you can end up in trouble. And so, you know, keep that in mind when you guys are building your businesses and you are using other people's services. You know, I use 2 email providers where basically when people opt into my list, it duplicates that into another email service, just in case for whatever reason an account gets shut down or something like that. And there's tools now, you know, like Zapier and all these different online things that will connect your interfaces. So if you use different, you know, if you use WordPress and Kajabi, or WordPress and Infusionsoft, and all these different platforms that are out there now, and you guys, you know, you may be using Joomla, you may be using, you know, Salesforce. There's so many different things, but there's now there's these integration sites that basically will plug through API stuff, you know, basically plug into each other, so you can set rules up so it triggers things when one thing happens in one place, it can happen in somewhere else. So, you know, just keep that in mind. I think Simon, you're smart enough. You figured it out right away. Of course, you could go Skype. You can message each customer you have and bring them in somewhere else. But when you are building something, if you're building something long term, if you're building something that's going to be around, just bear in mind as technology changes, you'll have to change too. I remember when people were using MySpace groups and then Google groups, and now it's Facebook groups, and so there will be something else eventually. But just keep that in mind. And I always tell people, don't get stressed about the small stuff, like technology stuff. It sounds so overwhelming to most people, but you can go to these outsourcing sites and literally pay people $20, $100 to take care of all this for you, setting up websites and things like that. Now, if you want to design and things like that, you can go to 99 Designs, pay $1,000, you'll get a beautifully looking website. Then you can go over to another site, pay a couple $100. They'll code the website, they'll set the website up. $1,500, you got yourself a professional website. You didn't have to do a single thing for it. I see too many people, like Dan Kennedy always says, majoring in the minors, basically sweating the small stuff. If you're a fitness professional, you're not an IT guy, you're not a webmaster, you're not a graphics guy. Most of you aren't marketers. That's why you're listening to the show to get better at that. And so you're an expert in one thing. You're an A+ in fitness, but you're an F or even below that in terms of tech and those kind of things. Hire where you can. And the cool thing about some of these sites are you can actually name your own prices. So, if you only have $50 to spend on it, you can put $50 down. Now, a lot of times you get what you pay for, but a lot of these sites will have many people bidding on it. And so you can selectively choose. You can set, have a ratings review system. So 1 through 5 stars, you can say, I only want people who have 5 stars to be able to apply. And you'll get a handful of people, I don't want to go on any more about that, but I think this was a great example, Simon, of one of those things where, a lot of people would be like freaking out because of this and essentially wouldn't know where to turn or go because, Facebook groups makes everything easy for you. You literally just set up a group, add your people, and you're done. There's no tech to it, right? And so if someone had to go do that on their own site with a membership platform, that's where they start to get a little nervous and a lot of times don't take that action.
Do you know what before I think we should move on because this is something that I could go into a deep banana spiral about. Is that they wouldn't let me post in the groups, but they would let me like. I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. It's like
they were like teasing you. They show you the group, but like you couldn't actually go inside.
I could like it, but it's you can't. You could acknowledge that you actually think something's good, but no, you can't comment on that.
Yeah. Out of fear of bananas. You know what you should do for like a week is just post every random banana picture you can find. Like, just keep posting banana pictures.
Well,
like,
I'm just going to smother myself in wet banana and just like rub my nipples and stuff. I think that would be awesome.
I think we are drastically losing listeners this week.
So, we're going to be talking about webinars today. Webinars is one of those things where you do them and then you look back and you go, why didn't I do that ages ago? And a lot of it comes from, I think, fear. It's like, oh my God, I've got to do a presentation with people. Like, I've got to get some software together. And what happens if it goes wrong? Trust me, I have had webinars, I've done webinars where I've been speaking. People haven't seen the slides. I've created a story from it. It's been funny. You've just got to get out there and do it. What are webinars? It's basically a presentation online where you can interact live with your audience. And it's just a fantastic way. Imagine trying to get 100 people in a room. Well, you can actually now do that live on a webinar. And the benefits is that it's live. They can interact. You can just be yourself in the moment. And it really is a great way, especially when you get people interacting, to feel like they're part of something. And while, doing video series and ebooks and other lead generation things is great, there's nothing quite like the sense of, being part of something live in the moment. And if you want to, coach people in different areas of the world, or you just want to, attract an audience, maybe even locally, but you want to test something aside from doing an event, then webinars is a fantastic way not only to build value and trust, not just to convert those potential prospects into leads, but also to really build your database of emails so that you can really just start to accelerate the buying process in getting more customers.
Yeah, you know, the other benefit to the webinars is it's actually one of the highest converting sales process you can do. And because of that live event that you mentioned, people feel like they're showing up to something. They're there, they're in attendance. There's that, this is real aspect. And it takes away some of those trust issues that they have with a video sales letter or a sales letter or, promotional material that you'd send out, because they're there, they're with you. They can ask questions at the end. So they feel like, that it's that step closer, right? And if we look at the terms of relationships, the closer you can get to someone, then the higher the influence you have. And so, people pay fortunes, and I've used this example, I think, before on the podcast, but, Tony Robbins, and you're a big fan, so you'll see where I'm going with this, but Tony Robbins' book, I think it's Unleashing the Giant Within. I think that's the name of the book. That book, from what I've been told, is the exact same as his, entry-level seminar that he does. And in UPW, in terms of the content, right? In terms of the theories, the stories told, the content, and obviously updates it over the years as, with better results and bigger results and, bigger things that he's doing. But the principles and the core concepts are the same in the book as they are at the live event. Well, what's fascinating is if you look at the live event, he has levels of seating that you can purchase. You can general seating all the way up to like VIP, which is like front row seating with Tony. So you're closer to Tony. And people pay extraordinary amounts more to do that. Well, beyond that, of course, is his mastermind, which then you get the personal interaction with Tony, as you've experienced yourself. You get to hang out with him, have short conversations, just interact. You pay extremely more for that, right? And it's all basically, if you look at it, the principles, and Dan Kennedy always says this, is like once you've, kind of followed him for 3 to 6 months, you kind of got everything he's got, and that's everyone. There's only so much that we have, and so much that we teach. But the thing is people want that personal interaction. They want the accountability. So when you hold a webinar, if you look at it in terms of that scale, they're behind a screen with you. And they're following along. Your voice is there. You're with them in that moment. And that is why people still pay to go to concerts. People still pay to go watch live games. I'm off to the NFL Chargers football game tonight. Tomorrow I'm going to Steve Aoki, in concert here, selling out stadiums and stuff. Why go to those things when you can watch online, you can watch on TV, it's because you're one step closer. It's about the experience that you create, and webinars create that experience. And so, a webinar is something you can add in whether you're online or offline. In terms of, you can do seminars, introduce new ideas and concepts, new programs, all these different things, get new clients in locally, and it gives you another selling opportunity. That is super powerful. And now with technology like Webinar Jam, which integrates a webinar platform with Google Hangouts, you can actually be live on camera and flip between your camera and slides. Whereas old technology, you just have the slides or you just have the video camera, and it's kind of junky and awkward. But there, as technology gets better, this all gets better. You can do it live, and then the replay is available after. But that's the benefits of webinars. You're just creating this experience, and if you can get people to take, and that's the other thing that I think that's important, right? Is people choose the webinar they want to show up to, and so when you're doing webinars, ideally, you wouldn't just do one webinar. You either do multiple webinars or have multiple times to do the same webinar, because people are going to pick a time and they're going to schedule that in their calendar and they're going to show up, and that is huge because that's them showing up. It's like that mini commitment, micro commitments we've talked about before that moves people along the buying path. And them showing up is a great sign. They're raising their hand, saying, "Look, I'm really want to learn from you. I really want your help." And I think that people miss that thing with webinars and don't see it as such a huge thing. They just see the work that has to go in before the webinar, which really isn't that much, because if you're doing a sales letter or a video sales letter, or you're writing a sales promotional piece to go out, or an email or something like that, you got to put work into that. So, this is hopefully today we'll give you the outline, we'll give you the structure, we'll give you enough here that you feel confident to put a webinar together. because you can start implementing these, and you could hold a webinar every 2 weeks. You can automate it, and it can be running on autopilot behind the scenes. So you have a lot of options to do with this. So hopefully we've sold you on the idea, and we probably should move on to the structure of the webinar.
Yeah, so we've in previous episodes discussed, headlines and content and things you can put together for ebooks. You've already probably got with blogs that you've created and information you've provided to your clients, you've got structure for a great webinar. You could easily put together 10 steps to, lose belly fat. You could, do 10 steps to the ultimate body transformation. You could, if your niche is muscle building, then you could do, 7 mistakes guys make when trying to get ripped. Like, there's loads of different strategies that you could use. So you've already got the information there. It's just a case of putting it into a format that people are going to enjoy watching and listening to. Now, the key really is, obviously, with this whole concept is the webinar isn't the goal of the webinar isn't to get on there and suddenly go buy my stuff. The goal of the webinar is to build value and trust, so that the logical next step at the end of it is for people to take another commitment, which might be to reach out to you, it might be to buy a product, it might be to sign up to a 7-day trial, whatever that is. But you've got to front end it with, say at least, 30 minutes or so of good, valuable content, stuff that you would happily, have people pay for. And this is something Frank Kern talks about, which is results in advance. Give people something so good that they just really go, wow, if I'm getting this information for free, then what's going to happen if I actually hire this person? So don't forget that that's really the goal. Is yes, it's to get people to invest in you, but you need to, before that you start to discuss and give someone that opportunity, you need to front end it with some awesome stuff. And so, doing case studies and building things around, a specific client that you had and what you did with them, and or 10 steps to this. These are all good ways to build out the main title of the webinar. Now, in terms of the structure, my own personal structure is, I put together some slides about exactly what people are going to learn during the content. At the start of this podcast, we tell you what you're going to learn during the podcast. So tell people what they're going to learn. Then what you want to do is you want to have them know what you do and why they should listen to you. Okay, so why should they listen to you? Maybe you've been featured in some local media, just to raise your profile, which is important. Also, before you do that, actually, you want to let people know that they need to maybe go to the toilet and they need to turn off their mobile phone, because what people are going to have a tendency to do is go onto the webinar and then start playing with their phones and reading Facebook and stuff. You need their full attention, so you need to really guide people in what to do. Then once you've obviously told people about your skill set level and why they should listen to you, and maybe talking about some case studies and stuff, then you can start to go into the main content of the training. Before we go into kind of offer and stuff like that, have you got anything to add, AJ?
I think the biggest thing you got to understand is your reason why they would give a shit about listening. Okay, so your hook, your story, whatever it is that you're getting them there, remember to focus on them. And that's the same at the beginning of the webinar. You want to talk about yourself, but you don't want that to be the first thing you talk about. And that should be really short as well when you do talk about yourself. The truth is, if they've shown up to the webinar, there's already that level of trust there. If you think about it in terms of going to a doctor's office, if we show up at the doctor's office, we know that doctor can help us. And so if they show up at the webinar, they assume that you can help them. And so when you tell your story, you don't need to drag on. You don't need to, lay out a million different accolades and, all of the certifications you have after your name. All you need to do is show them why they need to listen to you. And that might be your own personal experience. It might be the fact you've helped other people. It might be that you're an expert for, XYZ magazine. But that can be really short. Just make sure you open and explain the core content that's going to come up. Kind of like we do. We give you that teaser before. But when you do that, what I would explain to them is basically, what it is they're going to learn, why that benefits them, and then give them a little tease, a little cliffhanger in terms to get them excited so that they don't just, tune out at that point. Because, just like any video, even though they've taken time out of their day, if they start listening to the webinar and immediately are bored because you're just rambling on about yourself and all the things you've done. And I've seen this in webinars. I've been on webinars that 25, 30 minutes in, they haven't taught me a damn thing. They're still harping on about their story because, they want to take you on this emotional roller coaster up and down and start to play with the heartstrings. Here's the problem with that is you lose so many people when you do that because people come for the content, right? And your story to them is minimal. They need to hear it, but it doesn't need to drag on. It doesn't need to go on. You'll be better, like you said, if you have a case study of people that are doing what if you're talking about your fat loss, like a new fat loss method, and you have case studies, you'd be better showing those than talking about yourself. If you're your only case study because, you're just getting started with this or it's a new thing you've experimented with, explain that and show your own case study pictures, more so than talking about why you're the expert and carry on. So, that's how I start the webinars. And then, I also like if you have any myths or, things that they may believe to be true that you can kind of shatter. Or give away the secrets, so to speak. I like to get those in there before you go into the meat and potatoes of the content, because they have a frame of reference. They have a certain mindset that they're coming to you with. And so, you want to really give them hope by, blowing up anything in their mind that creates doubt or anything like that. So then when you share your content, they're true believers. They're fully in, and they're not going to question you as you go because you've already addressed the doubts and fears before we jumped into the content.
Yeah. Something which is talked about a lot when it comes to email marketing is things like open loops. So when you go into the content, the main, opening content, you start to weave in things that you're going to talk about like in the later slides. And that really then opens up their mind into like, oh, I really want to stay for the content. Because, when it comes to webinars, there's multiple battles going on. First of all, you've got to get people on it. Then you've got to get people kind of interested in, registering for it. You've got to get people registering for it. Then once they've registered, you've got to get people on it. So you can do things like retargeting and sending them emails to get them excited by it. Then once they're on it, you've got to keep them on it. Okay. And then once you keep them on it, you've got to make the offer. And so this is where a lot of people have the challenges is that maybe they've tried one once and it hasn't worked. And so they don't go back. It's not that, it didn't work. It's that one part of it didn't work. And that's what we talk about in all of these podcasts is marketing is about breaking it down into chunks. And it's not that it didn't work, it's about part of it didn't work. And once you start to understand why it didn't work, you can start to patch things up. So, open loops are a great way to keep people on, and you've just got to be engaging. You've got to be, if you could, show your personality and get that connection with people, because then they're more likely to want to stay in for the main content, which should really, be, like I said before, sharing your best stuff, doing things in numbered lists is really good because it allows to get the people to get the variety. Particularly in my webinars, I use funny images because that interrupts people's patterns if they see something which is slightly weird. It's just my kind of personality to be a bit wacky anyway. Show off that side of you that is going to connect with people, because if you're just if you are your authentic self on the webinar, then people are going to want to stay on. They're going to connect with you, and the ones that do jump off, they're maybe not a good fit for you.
Yeah, we'll talk about a couple of ways to get people to show up and to raise those attendance rates after we cover after we finish the structure here. How about that for an open loop? But you're teaching your material, and Simon listed several ways you could do it. Lists are great, steps are great, instruction is cool. But remember, you want to make sure that you give them some action steps as well. So give them, 3 to 5 different things they can do, and so that even if they don't purchase from you, they can go do these things on a daily, weekly basis, or whatever it is, and start to get results. Now, the reason that's so important, and Simon mentioned earlier, the whole results in advance thing that Frank Kern always talks about. If you think about it in terms of when you give them action steps, of course, they're not going to go do those immediately. So they're not the results in advance is not about getting them results like physically getting them results before they show up or anything like that. What it is mentally. Okay, if they can future pace and they can put themselves in their own shoes 30 days from now and see themselves having gone through a transformation because the information you've shared is clear, concise, and given with actionable steps. Then when you go into your sales at the end, when you go into your close, when you go into your close, you basically have set them up to trust you, to continue with you, because then they do feel like they can get results because you've given them that much. But what happens is they say, well, imagine what he would do if I worked with him, if he's given me this much already. Okay. And so it's like a teeter-tot. If they're on the fence, you're going to have those that will jump in on any offer you got, no matter what you say or do, because they're a buyer and you fired them up and they're ready to go. But then about 80% of your people are going to be, on the fence, and then they're going to want to, not going to know if they're going to buy or not. And so by future pacing for them in their mind, by giving them those action steps that they're, can easily put into place, and it's got to be stuff that's easy. You can't like tell them to work out for 3 hours a day and expect them to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. Because if they're not working out at all, going from 0 to 3 hours a day is going to be a lot for a lot of people. So you got to be realistic with those action steps, but it will set you up for your close, because in their head, they already see themselves getting results without you. So with you, it's like, adding fuel on the fire, plus it's fail proof. That's why they want to work with the expert, because I could see myself doing this, but I know myself. I've let myself down before. I needed someone to help me. And that's, you set them up, and then we go into the close, and you really don't have to sell like you would, one-to-one. There's no hard close, because you've already given so much that at the end, it's that law of reciprocity, where at the end, they're just, okay, what do you got? Let me in,
100%. While I've got it on my mind, I do a little thing after people register for my webinars, and I think it'd be good for you to talk, AJ, about some of the launches that you've done and stuff and trends that you've seen working, because people can model that. But just something that I do with mine, which really helps, is when someone's registered for the webinar, maybe I've used Lead Pages or something, and then they go onto my Aweber list, and Lead Pages, it makes it really easy that it will automatically register with GoToWebinar, which is what I use. AJ uses Webinar Jam. When they go through Lead Pages and register and get on my list, the first email that they get, it basically just says, look, I'm super pumped that you're going to be on the webinar, but in order to really make this the best webinar for you possible, I need to know what your challenge is, because I've got great content. I know that, but what if I just made it super specific to you? So just fill in this quick form and just literally answer this quick question. Just going to take you it's going to take you like 28 seconds. Just put in there what your biggest challenge is. And what they do is they fill out that form. You can use something like Woofu, you can use FormStack, and then they put in the questions, and then you've got the challenges that they've got. Okay, and then what you can do is before the webinar starts, you can look through all the challenges, and maybe it's, belly fat, or maybe it's, I just want to build my confidence, or maybe you're doing something completely random. I know we got some people listening to this who are not in the fitness industry, and they like train dogs and all sorts, right? So you could be in another business too, but let's say that you're a fitness trainer. You may have a bunch of clients that are going to come on, and it's all about belly fat. Well, once you know the language that they're speaking in their mind, to themselves, then you can start to weave all of these challenges into the content. So then really it's going to connect, and it's going to connect with them because they've written it themselves. And so I just found that really powerful. And I do a lot of this stuff when it comes to analyzing data and emotional words, because it just really helps me craft, content, webinars, offers, because I know what's going in the mind of you guys. I know what's happening, and so it's my job. When I'm doing my content, my blogs, helping Fitpros get from A to B. It's my job to help you understand what's not just what the challenges are, but also how to overcome them. And you can really do that by surveying, by really tapping into, like I said before, what's happening in the mind of the prospect.
Yeah. I want to go back to the close, but as we're talking about before the webinar, I want to share kind of the concept here, because whether it's a survey or whether it's something else, the whole idea is interaction before the webinar, okay? Depending on how long out you're filling your webinars, and obviously if it's automated, then, could be the next day. But if you're doing live webinars, which live webinars convert higher than automated webinars. Okay, so if you want the best bang for your buck, the live webinars are in there. But of course, that's an hour, 2 hours out of your time every week. My friend Lewis Howes, he did webinars every single day to build his 7-figure business live, every single day live. Okay, so you got many options. But before the webinar, to get people to show up, the reason you want interaction is for two big things. Number one is to introduce them to you. You want them to get, interacting with you, going back and forth in their mind in terms of, who you are, what you can do for them. But it just continues to confirm that they made the right choice in signing up for this webinar, because people guard their emails, people are protective of it. And signing up for a webinar, they got to give you a real email address because they got to get the info for the webinar. So they're giving you their real email address. So, removing the skepticism by the interaction is important because, you actually care, okay? And then the second thing for it, too, is it gives you an opportunity to sell them again on the webinar, okay? Because, if we've done this from an ad, let's say we've gone from a Facebook ad to a landing page, there's not going to be a lot of information on that stuff. Like, we're not going to we're trying to get them to sign up. So we're not going to be going into detail on what we're covering on the webinar and why it's so important for them to know. And so before the webinar, you have an opportunity. You can send videos, you could do downloads, PDFs, you could just do an email, whatever it is, a sequence of information that basically, shows them the huge opportunity they have if they attend the webinar. So that opportunity obviously could be weight loss, it could be muscle gain, it could be just a new style of workout that they've never experienced before that's going to radically transform their body and the way they think, and whatever your hook is, whatever your topic of the webinar is, you have that ability before the webinar to basically show them why what you're about to cover is so much better than everything else they've ever heard of. And so, if you were looking at it, you could just simply do a video explaining why, XYZ, which is your hook, is the king of the castle and everything else falls below. And, the reason they got to show up is because you're so excited to share this with them. And, but you talk about other things that are out there, and that's where you may bash some of those myths that they have. If, depending on trends and things like that, it gives you opportunity to really get them to take it serious, that this isn't just another webinar. This is something that they have to absolutely 100% schedule time out of their calendar to show up, to be with you, to learn what you have to learn, because if they don't, they're going to be missing out on something. Most people, what they do is they just have someone opt in for a webinar and then send them the here's your links. And then on the day of the webinar, they say, hey, webinar's starting in a few hours. Hey, webinar's starting there. So, you want to make sure that you have something before that webinar that interacts with them, that gets them, going back and forth with you, whether it's clicking through on emails, answering questions, downloading PDFs, maybe even, it could just be a blueprint, right? If you're depending on what you're actually selling, you could do a blueprint. People love to have that, but if they don't know, what it means, they're like, this is awesome. And then it's like, I got to show up to learn what I got to do here, right? So, be thinking of that when you set your webinars up. And then, of course, make sure you have the right reminders in place. You want to remind someone their webinar's coming up, 48 hours, 24 hours, and then the day of in the morning. If let's say your webinar's at 11 a.m., you want to make sure you send an 8 a.m. reminder, webinar starting in 3 hours, a 1 hour reminder, webinar starting in an hour. And then, of course, before you go live, we're about to go live. Remember, people are busy in their day, and if they get working on something, they may forget the time because they're so, engrossed in what they're doing. And so you want those reminders to buzz them and they, oh, okay. And depending on what technology you use, like Webinar Jam, you can actually set up text message reminders as well, and I know a few other services do that. So, before the webinar is an important frame, and it's really important because it sets the webinar up for success. And so, if you can get people to show up, you do a lot better job. And by doing this stuff, you usually get 50% at least of the people that register show up, whereas, a lot of people only get about 10% of the people who register show up. And you got to understand, people don't show up for various reasons. A lot of the times, they just don't have the time in their schedule. They think they can show up, and it just doesn't happen. But it's not necessarily they didn't want the information. But those that do show up are going to be your hottest prospects. Okay, they're going to be the ones who are most likely to take action immediately. That doesn't mean you should ignore people after the webinar, because there's huge conversions to be made there as well. But that's how you get people to show up for the webinar. Anything on before the webinar, Simon? I want to cover the close before we go to after the webinar. But is there anything on before the webinar that you're thinking of that I missed?
No, I think that's all good. Do you want to do during the webinar now?
To keep people interacting, whatever you want, man. We basically covered the intro, right?
I was just going to mention things like basically, just keeping discussion going with the participants. So just it's really important to be asking questions. You don't have to go through the whole part of the content and then just not interact at all. You can break quarter of the way through and go, guys, have you got any questions, and interact with people. Because the more you, for example, let's say that you've got someone on there called Josephine. Like, for example, if you say, oh, Josephine, you've just asked a question, just by saying her name, you've just raised the chances of her buying. So it's really important to call people and call people out on the webinar, discuss with them, get some little interactions going, and the more people that you touch during the webinar, the more sales you're going to make.
You're all about touching. That's you, and touching and feeling and emotion.
I thought I was quite a visual person, but clearly I'm kinesthetic.
I know. Magic fingers, I've heard. So, again, back to the outline. I think that what Simon says is important. You got to understand, and depending on what technology you can use, you got the chat room is open, so you can continually tell people to, hey, you liking this content? Say something. You can set up polls where you ask them a question, and then you go back to that and share the results with everyone. It's a good idea to have someone there to monitor that stuff. I see other people give away prizes during the webinar. At the end of the webinar, if they stick around, they give away an iPad or something like that for the best question or something like that. So many different things you can do to get people to interact with you and to stay. And if you talk to people like they're there with you, it's going to raise the quality of the webinar and people's willingness to buy, because then they feel like they're there with you. So they don't. And that's why live webinars work so well, because you can mention current events going on and things like that, and people know it's real. People know that it's the exact time. It's everything is. There's no setup there. There's no, they're not watching a pre-recorded video or anything like that. So that's very powerful. So before we go on to after the webinar, I just want to finish with the close of the webinar. So basically, you open your webinar and you talk about what's coming up in the webinar, what it's going to do for them, and how it's going to help. You give them a little tease, cliffhanger. You go into your story, all right, and share.
We have a visitor there. Is that Storm or Hulk? This is excellent. I love these parts of the podcast where it's like, we have an intruder.
Hulk has wandered in here and has realized there is no way out, and so now he's standing at the door waiting. So, but you go into your story, okay? Share your story. Then if you have testimonials, case studies, you're going to share those. Like I said, if you get myths, anything like that, are great things to bust at this point in time. Go into your teaching, and Simon explained lists are great for this, bullet points, 7 things, 10 things, whatever it is. Give them your actionable steps, like we said, things to go do immediately. And then you're going to go into your close, all right? And this is where most people, they don't ask for the sale, right? They just basically say, hey, if you want more information, go to this website, or if you want to learn about my product, go to this website. If you got something to sell it. You got to give a clear, concise call to action. All right. So you want to just tell them what you got, tell them what it's going to do for them. All right. Tell them why it's so important, and then tell them how to get it. Okay, it's really that simple. And so if it's a program you have, 6 weeks online program that's going to help them, just explain that each week what's going to happen. Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, what they're going to get, explain, the features and basically the benefits to them. And then at the end, give them the price. And depending on, you don't have to give them the price. You could set them up to fill out an application. so that you can get them on the phone and then go through your sales process if you have that. But you want to make sure you give that. And then the last thing that most people don't do when they close is create any sort of urgency or reason why they need to take action today, right? So if you're doing a program, obviously you're going to have a start date. So that's urgency, okay? Now, if it's a program you sell consistently, maybe you have a sale that you're running for those that are on the webinar, save $100 now, save $50 now, and you give them a special link and close with urgency, but give them a reason to buy today, and then that takes care of your close. And then once you're done there, then you open up for Q&A, and this is where a lot of your sales come in during this Q&A time, because you can basically make up for all the questions, the doubts, the fears that people have. You probably answer them, but you can go through and now you can continue to answer questions. And you may end up answering questions for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, depending on how many people you have on the call. And you'll be making sales consistently during that time because you're there, you're interacting, and it makes a big difference. People who don't do Q&A have big difference in conversions than people that do Q&A.
Yeah, definitely. So as we have a third host on the show today, I'm sure AJ's, while I'm talking, is sorting it out. But so the Q&A, as AJ mentioned, is just a brilliant time to overcome those objections. You can also just add more value. You can also, the Q&A is a great way to just for you to get a better understanding of your market, so that when you do future ones, you can start to weave this kind of content into future webinars too. And also that those questions, some webinar programs, they will also put those questions into a document for you, and you can take them, and then what you can do, as I'm sure AJ is going to talk about in the follow-up, is start to address the questions in the following emails that go out, trying to bring more people in. And so, yeah, Q&A is just a brilliant thing, but make sure that you put the Q&A after the offer.
All right.
Another quick tip also is to, if you've got a Q&A slide which says Q&A, put the link to the offer, which is going to be at your website on a specific page, on the Q&A slide. Because what I find happened, and this is a mistake I made, was that you go to the Q&A slide, start doing the Q&A, but people are asking for the link. So just always when you do the Q&A slide, put the link to the offer below the actual Q&A image.
Genius. Let's talk about after the webinar. Right? Because if they do this right, everyone on the webinar, they should, conversions from webinars, I mean, you can get 30, 40, 50% conversion off a webinar. It's phenomenal. I've seen insane things happening with webinars. But what about all those that didn't show up? Obviously you got the replay, but there's other things you can do, right? So sending the replay is one thing you can do. The only issue with sending the replay is if they didn't show up in the first place, you want to give them a good reason that they got to watch the video, right? And maybe it was a time conflict, but a lot of times it's like they lost interest, they didn't think it was going to be good enough. So resell them on going to watch that replay. Also, give them a definitive. Don't put the replay up forever. Say it's up till Saturday. If you did it on Tuesday, it's going to be up available till Saturday. Then I'm pulling it down because I mentioned this like that. So send them the full replay. Now, if they don't click through and purchase, what I would do, and this is something that I learned from Trey Smith, who is in the app industry. He does a lot of webinars and helps a lot of people with who build, iTunes apps and things like that. He takes his webinar and then drills it down and does the webinar, but only the good bits, right? So basically, he just takes all the front end stuff off and just gets to the content. So it starts at that content portion. So it's the 2-hour webinar is now 35 minutes or whatever. And then, of course, you've got your pitch at the end, cuts off the Q&A. So it's basically it's just the meat and potatoes and then the offer, okay? Because time may be an issue for them. They might not have the time to go through. And then what you can do is you can take that and you could take your entire webinar, get it transcribed, and you can get it turned into a sales page, okay? And then you can send people to the sales page because maybe they don't have time to watch a video. And so you can take that webinar and basically break it down. Beyond that, you're going to want to do, for those that didn't purchase or don't purchase even during this phase, you're going to want to do a series of videos that basically, overcomes their objections. And so, the more videos, the better. 4 is probably plenty. But you're going to want to do a series of videos or emails that basically whatever reasons they may have in their head not to purchase, you want to come up with reasons they should purchase. Okay, and so this is basically your objections. This is probably the same objections you get when you sit across the table trying to sell someone, you speak to someone on the phone trying to sell someone, or that you've addressed in your sales letter if you have an information product. So create 4 specific objections. Figure out 4 objections they may have. Maybe go a little deeper on some of the stuff you covered in the video to overcome that objection. Send them those. And you're going to see your sales go through. And of course, the way to do this is you got to have, with your tracking, with your, email, whatever, if they click and open and click through and don't purchase, you want to make sure you're not sending this to those that purchase. But, that post-webinar, you can see a bump of 40% in conversions, on that post-webinar follow-up system. And I think a lot of people aren't doing anything but just sending the replay video.
Yeah, something about the replays. I'm not even joking, and I think this is important to let people know the power of this in real life terms. During this podcast, I've generated £3,000, which is 2 £1,500 packages of a replay from a webinar that I sent out.
There you go.
So.
Proof that it works.
Proof that it works. So, you can be generating these sales left, right, and center, but only if you make that first step and get doing things. And there's so many different strategies. But listen, you're not going to get it perfect first time round, but the key is just get one done and then start to make improvements. And you may start finding that webinars is one of your biggest, not only lead generators, but one of your best ways to convert those leads into paying customers.
Right. I think that is, it gives people another option. And in terms of, if you're selling, if you're a trainer in a gym, this can be used for so many different things. It can get you into the online marketing world, but also beyond that, you can send, if you've had prospects that have come in that haven't signed up and you've got them sitting on an email list, right? Or you got a mailing list for them. You can basically reach back out to these people and start providing content to them, and it may convert them back into a buyer. It might upsell them. A lot of times when I was running the health club, we sat down as personal trainers. We sat down with every new member to the health club. So we had so many people coming through. But the biggest objection that we had to overcome was the person who had signed up and got their membership for the health club. They were super motivated at this point in time. That's why they joined the health club. And now we're trying to sell them on really, really expensive personal training. It was a tough objection to get them to overcome, because they were so motivated in that moment and had such belief in themselves, that they were going to do it. However, through, just being there long enough, after 30 days, the majority of people aren't coming in anymore. So when you follow back up with them with a webinar, and basically you're going to reignite that passion, but this time they failed before on their own. So this time they're more likely to want to work with you. Okay. So if you've given, then that's why I was, when we talked about doing this podcast, there's, do we give away too much sometimes? And the truth is you could never give away too much, because a lot of people on their own are really going to struggle and not go and take action on this stuff, right? So we could give people everything they ever needed, and there's still going to be enough people who want our individual help that are going to come forward, and we can't teach everything we know. This podcast will go on for years, and we're still going to be sharing new information. So, when you're doing your webinars and giving away your information, understand that people fail most of the time when they go at something alone. And so you can't, there's no need to hold back. There's no need not to give your best information here. And if you do that, what will happen is someone might not purchase from you or take you up on your opportunity, fill out an application today. They may not through this entire cycle, but 4 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, when they're in the same spot they were when they first signed up to listen to you, and now they're listening to another webinar from you about this new thing you've been doing, and they see all the results, and they see how fast people get results, and they start to think to themselves, man, I've been following this guy for 12 months, trying to do this on my own. He gives great information. Maybe I should just work with him, you know? And it's that tipping point for people. And I think a lot of people forget that when they're building a business, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes momentum. It takes time. It takes that building that following, building that, you know, level of trust with it, you know, unspoken trust, so to speak. But when you do webinars, it is another tool for you to really get in front of people on a consistent basis with great information, and it converts better than a sales letter or, you know, a sales video or anything like that. And so in terms of your investment of time, this is one of the best investment of time you can do in order to generate new business for your fitness business.
Absolutely. So, guys, basically what we're saying is go and create a webinar really, really quickly. Because
if you do, let us know about it, you know.
Yeah.
Go to Fitpreneurs Facebook page and share with us the webinar page, and we'll take a look at it. You know, maybe sign up and listen and see what you got.
Yes. We would love to get your feedback. Head to iTunes, give us a review. If you enjoyed this episode, please just let us know. We really just appreciate like little messages going, Sai or AJ, like, thanks for the webinar, or, you know, we think really, you know, you shouldn't do any more, or whatever you want to, like, I don't want to hear you talk about bananas and smothering your nipples with banana juice, like, whatever you want to say, like, we would love to hear from you.
You know what? I think our female audience is probably next to zero because of your antics.
Okay, so
your antics, Simon.
If you are female, if you are single, if you like bananas, okay, we are the perfect fit together. So please do send me a PM message. I will check my other folder.
You know, I truly believe that you will find your wife through this podcast.
Oh dear, maybe.
So if you want to live in a little bit of San Diego, a little bit of England, you're into the fitness stuff, you know, Simon's available.
If you're like, you know, into onesies.
Yeah, you got to be able to wear a onesie well.
Then come on to my webinar, which is going to be on Tuesday night, which is going to be the 10 steps to marry Simon Lovell. And on it, I'll make you an irresistible offer at the end.
I think you should do that.
I think it's
all right, we should probably wrap this up because we've lost all our listeners anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter. We can just talk about crap then. So the action steps for this week, seriously guys, we want you to take action as always. We don't information without action is information, so we would rather you action it and make some money. So map out your webinar, you know, open Keynote, open PowerPoint, get those slides created, resources, Webinar Jam, GoToWebinar, two great ones too for you to look up. Map out your webinar, get a date set, get one person on it. Just, it can be your mother, okay? But if you know she's listening, you've got to step up. Don't cop out and record it and then, you know, just upload the video. Do it live. That's the pressure is a good thing. So yeah, do that. And we would love to, as AJ mentioned, see what your results are. Let us know how you get on with the webinars. The quote this week is from Jimmy Dean, and he says, "I can't change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails to always reach my destination." AJ, what do you feel about that random quote that I picked?
I'm trying to figure out if Jimmy Dean is the Jimmy Dean sausages guy. That's what I'm trying to figure out. It's a great quote. I think that, you know, as people progress, they have to understand that, you know, everything is the way it is, and the way we react, the way we interact is our control. And you know, life is going to move on as it's going to move on, and we can choose to either, you know, ride the wave, or we can choose to kind of try to get off and drown, I guess. But you know, this quote is fantastic in terms of, you know, you can't change what you can't change, but you can control yourself, and you can, you know, control your thoughts, control your actions. And like we've always said, you can, you know, reach your destination. You can achieve whatever you want to do, because you're the sole, you know, person in control of that.
You're the soul man. And on that note, if you're desperately trying to go for a wee right now and going, when is this going to end? It's going to end right in a second.
I just figure that people listen to this on like 3x speed, and so they're done.
Relax.
They're done in like 25 minutes anyway.
Yeah, we're just talking to nobody right now.
All right. Guys, go to iTunes, leave us a review, Fitpreneurs on Facebook. Look up the website, thefitpreneurs.com. If you're not on the email list, get on the email list so you don't miss one of these amazing episodes that me and Simon sweat over every single week. Simon will be here, unfortunately, in the US the next time we do a podcast. So, we'll sure to do a face-to-face. And last time we did it, our audio somehow didn't work. We're in the same room, and the podcast was worse in terms of quality of audio than anything we've done before. But we had a lot of fun in our onesies, throwing stuff at each other during that episode. So maybe we'll get in a marshmallow fight again.
Yeah, and girls, I'm not single because AJ's my wife.
There's going to be a talk about that. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time on another episode of The Fitpreneurs.
Guys, thanks for the killer episode. Listen, if you want to take your fitness business to the next level, terminate your competition, create ultimate freedom, buy new houses, cars, which could blow up, travel the world, or open your own gym where you can lift really heavy weights, then head to www.thefitpreneurs.com/free call for details on how to apply for your free accelerator call. Until the next episode, hasta la vista, Fit Pros. Fit Pros. Fit Pros. Fit Pros. Fit Pros. Fit Pros. Fit Pros.